Hello, and welcome to our webinar today on revolutionizing automotive through cross-industry innovation. We want to extend our warm and enthusiastic welcome to each and every one of you, and we are excited to have you join us. My name is Isa, and I am the CTO for our UK operations, and I'm pleased to be the host today. Before we kick off, though, I know you're all excited like I do, and I want to just remind a few housekeeping information for all of us here. The webinar will be recorded, and we will share after the webinar through your registered emails. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please put them on the chat. Someone will pick up, and then we will queue that, and then we will ask the questions. That being said, so like all of you guys know, the automotive industry is going through a lot of remarkable evolution, propelled particularly by convergence of AI, cloud computing, and other groundbreaking technologies. And vehicles are no longer just means of transportation, they're turning into and transforming into more sophisticated software digital platforms in a way. And this digital revolution is particularly accelerated by AI, and it is permeating every aspect of automotive industry and the landscape from customer experience all the way to how we conceive the mobility in general. And we all know AI is just the beginning, and like data is actually empowering it, and it's the lifeblood of this potential. By leveraging this vast majority of data, we can and we will drive hyper-personalization across these customer journeys, insights from the customer preferences, behaviors, patterns, and this will all potentially make and enable automakers to deliver tailored experiences to the participants. Today, our esteemed panel of experts will share their insights, obviously, and the strategies around like what is the role of AI in this revolutionizing customer experiences, and what's the importance of the data and hyper-personalization in this journey, and the cross-industry advancements that are influencing automotive sector. I want to thank you for joining us today, and without further ado, I would like to just invite my guests, and Mike Lavigne is the VP of Global Customer Experience and Digital Transformation in Nissan Motor Corporation. Kerensa Jennings, she's the Group Director of Data Platforms at BT, and she's also a Professor of Media Strategy and Communications in University of Huddersfield. And JJ, he's our beloved AI person, Global Head of AI for Globant. Now I'd like to invite all of our speakers to do a quick round of introduction of themselves, and I'll start with Kerensa.
Thank you, and hello everyone. It's really nice to be here and to join you today. So I'm Kerensa Jennings. I'm BT Group Director of Data Platforms. I've actually been working in TMT for around 30 years now. I had the first 20 years of my career working in the media sector. So I worked at ITN, I worked at Sky, and I spent 15 years working at the BBC. I'm now also an independent non-executive director on the board of one of our water companies in the UK. So I'm on the board of Southern Water, and I'm also a trustee at one of our national museums, which is the Sir John Soanes Museum, one of our national museums. So I'm thrilled to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Kerensa. Mike, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Isa. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Lavigne, VP for Customer Experience and Digital Transformation at Nissan Global. Prior to joining Nissan, my career was in digital transformation consulting, and I joined Nissan in 2017 with the hopes of being able to tackle a long-term digital transformation from inside the company, and happy to say that's exactly what a kind of exciting, challenging experience that it has been. Our team has transformed since I joined from being a website team within the marketing organization to now having customer experience be its own organization within Nissan, responsible for end-to-end customer journey delivery using digital as an enabler. So it's been a very exciting journey. Globant, of course, one of our key partners as part of that journey. So thank you, Globant team, for the partnership and for hosting this webinar and having me today. Looking forward to the discussion.
Welcome, Mike. Yeah. And last, JJ, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I'll be extremely brief. So JJ for short, been here at Globant for 10 years now, almost like in a couple of months, and been working with AI, but wasn't called AI yet, like for the past 17 years. I used to be a back-end activity. People didn't like this. They still don't like this, but now we're in the open. And I'm really excited to be here discussing how that actually enables and empowers and changes the game in terms of kind of the automotive whole scenario.
Oh, welcome, JJ. I guess I want to start our webinar with the top trends that's happening in the automotive industry, and I'd like to just bring Mike to the spotlight here. Mike, you've been leading customer experience transformation in the industry for quite some time now. So what would you say the top trends in the automotive industry and how technology is changing the sector?
Yeah, I'm glad you raised it. It's a very good way to frame this discussion, I think. I know we have a split audience on the webinar here today, about half maybe from the automotive industry, half from outside. So for the automotive audience, this probably will be quite familiar, but hopefully illustrative for the non-automotive audience here. There are three major trends in the industry for how technology is contributing right now: digitization, integration, and differentiation. It's useful, though, to actually look at the factors that are currently putting the industry under pressure to see why these are important. The first is the growing social and consumer pressure and regulation toward electrification. The industry is still very much in the process of adapting and shifting our products, our practices to accommodate this interest in demand. Related to this one is the second major factor is the competitiveness. Automotive has always been a very competitive industry, always a very price-driven industry, which is part of how dealer negotiation and dealer offers have become such a common practice. But now the industry is becoming even more competitive as we have many, many new companies entering, especially driven by two types of new companies, companies that fit one or both of these categories: new energy vehicle brands or Chinese brands. So you'll recognize a lot of the brands that are occupying one or both of these categories. Lucid, BYD, NIO are starting to take more and more market share. And largely, these new brands are pumping out new product very, very quickly and effectively. So alongside all the product being put out by the existing automotive brands, there's a ton of new product entering a very, very densely competitive market. And I'll just give you one example in China, which is one of the most competitive and brand dense markets in the world. In a 4-month period, last July to October, there were over 49 new products introduced into the Chinese market. About half of those products, so new model launches or model year upgrades, about half of these were electrified, and over half of them were from new market entrants, not from traditional brands. So it's always been a really, really competitive industry, but the industry is becoming only more competitive. And the third factor that's putting some stress on the industry is overall instability in global economy, political conflicts. These are destabilizing the industry's cost structure. So costs related to supply chain, raw materials, distribution, and trade costs are all fluctuating really rapidly year to year. So if you look at the result of all these factors, electrification, competition, cost, and stability, the traditional business model for selling cars is becoming more and more challenging. It's more and more challenging to be profitable based on this alone. So for all of these reasons and for this challenge, those three trends that I mentioned are the three ways that we and others in the industry are adapting to this extremely challenging context. So with the first around digitization, it's as it sounds, we're shifting traditional business models, traditional distribution models to digital to meet customer expectations and attract these customers through the convenience of shopping with our brand, having a customer experience with our brand versus others. So this is online transactions for everything from buying the car to parts and accessories to transacting online for the charging ecosystem and electrified services. This is something we're investing in Nissan today. Today at Nissan, you can transact for a new car in over 12 major markets using our global platform. That's a full transaction, not just a deposit. That's the entire new car transaction, and this will only grow. We're also in digitization seeing an interesting intersection between customer experience and marketing. The lines between these two are getting blurrier and blurrier. One example from China, the China market that I was mentioning, is in Nissan, we've now set up a small recording studio in Guangzhou that we record and stream 8 hours of live stream content with social media influencers every day. Our dealers are doing similar practice. And this is now a primary lead generating channel as you hand off right from the social live streaming to the dealer. And this channel is having tremendous growth year on year. So that's the first major trend. The second trend is around integration. Because the automotive business, the business of selling the car, is less profitable, all automotive companies are looking to diversify and increase the revenue per customer. So conquest is so difficult in that competitive landscape. So we're looking at retaining customers by giving them the best customer experience. We are looking to increase that revenue per customer through that positive customer experience by connecting these parts of the business that were previously disparate, connecting different service lines, business lines, integrating channels so that customers can interact with Nissan the same way on the web, in the dealer, in the app, and personalizing that experience to give each customer the best possible service because we know them. So this is a huge opportunity in progress and in the future for technology through personalization, AI, data integration, technology platforms that facilitate that omni-channel experience. Though the automotive audience here definitely knows that this integration is extremely complex, much easier said than done. And the last major trend is around differentiation. Because of the lack of reliance on the core automotive business model, because of the competitive, we're all looking in the industry to support our customers and create new value for them in a differentiated way. So new digital services that can use the connected telematics capabilities, create new value for our customers, new mobility services that can be added on. And the passenger experience is becoming more and more an area for differentiation. We're starting to see connectivity and screens not only for the driver and for driving, but also for entertainment and for comfort of other passengers in the car. So these are some areas that tech will help OEMs differentiate in that landscape, but that will only become more and more prominent to cater not just to the drivers, but to the passengers as well. So hopefully that gives a bit of a good landscape that we can play in our discussion today.
Yeah, it was really good. Thanks for the really, I guess, condensed summary. Seems like there's a lot to unpack there. I want to start our panel probably like just picking one thing, which is going to be a expected, I guess, keyword in this panel, which is AI. So JJ, let's begin with AI, which is like obviously is the biggest buzzword in the world right now. So as cars evolving and the market is becoming more challenging, and then data is pouring from all directions, from sensor data all the way to kind of like customer behavior experience. How can AI help, I guess, analyzing and leveraging this data to improve safety, I don't know, efficiency, convenience for the drivers and the passengers?
It's a good question. So it may sound a little bit theoretical, but bear with me. The whole idea of where AI can help you is mostly on any decision-making process and pain point. Either the way we understand that is by either of the frequency, because we have to make a lot of choices, or the complexity, because it's going to be this huge impactful decision that will have years of tail effects or something like that. That's when we leverage AI. Now, when we're talking around that, I don't know, how people choose, and we're thinking around people driving a car, and can be thinking around the roads that they are using, the way they drive, for the efficiency of the fuel, either if it's going to be petrol or electric or anything else, coordination with other drivers in terms of avoiding rush hour, avoiding lockouts, or even kind of autonomous driving. Those are all kind of decisions that are made on that spot at that moment. But the interesting thing is that when you start moving some of those decisions to some algorithms, some AI, you generate the space that then you want to fill. And as Mike was saying, maybe now it's going to be more about the comfort and the entertainment and the usage of the space within the car while you're driving, because you don't have to be manually driving. And maybe that connects to something else, which is the experience you have while you're in there. And what do you use that time for? Because now you have your own, let's say, liminal capsule to move around the world. And you can use that to, I don't know, meditate if you want to, learn a language, whatever else. But then again, what should you decide to do at that time? Well, maybe it's around, if you can measure your level of stress you have from your voice, which you can use an algorithm for that. I will recommend to do a little bit of breathing exercises instead of trying to learn German, because that's going to stress you out. And so it starts building and evolving in that sense. So but going back to the overall idea, it's going to be about improving our decision making. Now, if that is on the manufacturing side and it's around what are the best materials and the sequencing and how to optimize the process, or if it's going to be around how you distribute schedules on the streets to avoid traffic, or if it's going to be around whether you drive somewhere at all, or you can just relegate that and use the time for something else, that's going to be the main impact of AI. Now, one of those decisions might be around being able to process the information. Like you said, it's going to be bombarded by information everywhere. And we typically try to zone out of almost everything. We get into a tunnel vision, like if you're driving and it's stressful and people talk to you, you're just kind of ignoring them or getting kind of angry or whatever. But the difference is going to be, well, now, whenever I'm somewhere, I could have an idea of what's my environmental impact for choosing this way of going there or driving this way at this hour. Can I choose something else? And if I have to drive here, maybe the way that we interact with ads on the street is going to be something that moves internally to the car, and maybe it's on the screen of the car, but it's going to be highly relevant to me and the information I want to have. And it might be suggesting something else. And so now I'm able to process information around the status of the road, the status of the car, my own impact, things that I could be doing, my health around that, like, hey, you could have walked this 10 blocks or something else. And then I'm starting to use that information because I want to do something with it. I want to decide something. So that's the very roundabout way of saying AI is going to help you in optimizing your decisions. The problem is that sometimes you don't even have the access to the data or the capacity to process the data to make the appropriate decisions. And that's what we're going. It's going to be around the light, not rather than just performative being able to arrive somewhere like with a GPS. It's going to be more around your growth. It's going to be more your experience, but it's still around your decisions for that.
Yeah, it's almost like taking away all the mechanical parts from your journey and then leaving with you with decision and cognitive faculties, maybe. Okay,
Absolutely.
so like, I guess like I want to turn to Kerensa, and Kerensa, you're coming from media background, and like we all know, like there has been a lot of changes in that ecosystem as well, like from 4G to LTE and then the 5G. There's tons of stuff happening. So I guess like we're definitely interested in hearing your thoughts around like what will be looking like as cross-industry disruptions happening in the telecom industry that can be relevant for automotive as well.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'd almost want to kind of take a step back and think a little bit, picking up from what JJ was saying, which I think was really, really smart. It's thinking about our customers as people who have whole lives. We're not just people who buy cars or people who buy dresses or people who buy carrots. We have whole holistic lives. And I think when we think about disruption, it's what can we learn from other industries and sectors that actually make life better for people, make life better for customers, getting that insight on kind of what's in it for me, whoever you are. And I think when I think about disruption, I think about, obviously there's the advance in how you consume Amazon, Netflix, the recommendations engines. We're spotting the patterns that people, viewing habits, the behaviors that give you insights about what they may like. But it's a very delicate balance to strike, because there are some people who love hyper-personalization and love the concept of you get served up exactly what you might like. But actually, that also can create a bit of a vanilla world where you're not being exposed to critical thinking, and you're not being exposed to other things that you might not like as much, but you could still learn from in different ways. So when you think about personalization and thinking about those insights that we've learned from the media world, and how you can take that into the automotive world, I think it's about thinking of the whole person. So picking up from what JJ was saying about the kind of the customer behavior, what kind of journeys does a person want to have? What's their fitness level? Why are they using their car? Why are they buying a car? What are their kind of life habits? What type of family do they have or not? If it's a fleet customer, what are their main motivations for working with a particular company and buying from a particular company? And how can you optimize and improve that? So if you think about the way AI works, it's about vast volumes of data. And by the way, it's got to be accurate, cleansed data, or else what comes out the other side isn't any good to you. Vast volumes of data, which can then be used to create predictive analytics, give you forecasting data, help you make better decisions, help you optimize. And that can help on the manufacturing side in terms of how you improve your productivity and how you improve your production lines. But it can also happen in retail. If you think about the customer experience when you're purchasing a car, what are the kinds of considerations that people are thinking about now, and what are they expecting? And I think the sense of entitlement about what people expect are going to be significantly higher these days, and growing and growing and growing as time goes by. You expect convenience, you expect a connected ecosystem. And I think that, to me, is the sweet spot. If we can do a little bit more design thinking from the bottom up, bring industries together and think about the kind of the customer archetypes that might represent an entire spectrum of different types of use cases, that then gives you wonderful insights that you can then use for propensity modeling. So people who are more likely to, say, buy these sorts of goods from those sorts of places and go to those sorts of places, travel to these sorts of places, wrap all that up together, are more likely to buy this sort of vehicle or rebuy this sort of vehicle. It gives you a huge amount of insight into the whole person. So I would like to kind of just contribute that to the debate, the concept of using that insight that we are all holistic individuals, and the customers who are our customers, whether it's at grand industry scale, wholesale scale, whether it's an individual, they've all got very complex lives, and our job really is to try to make those lives better, more convenient, very, very safe, and highly secure.
Oh, thank you for that. I remember a study, I think it was Lloyd's Banking Group did. There are apparently like 16 key moments in anybody's life. These are things like marriage, things like death, things like moving houses, and so on, like education. I think like it's very like, I mean, the touch that you made around like that personal aspect and personal feeling and the expectations around it, it will definitely, I guess, like it's going to be our solution to the problem. So I guess, Mike, like given this like experience landscape, so I know you've been doing the customer experience transformation for, I guess, like a few years now at Nissan. So what are some of the priorities that's coming up this year?
It's a well-timed question after you just spoke, Kerensa, because I think you so beautifully articulated this concept of the whole person, taking insights and inspiration from the whole person, and also treating your customers with the kind of respect and care of the whole person. You framed it so well, and that is a large part of where we're focusing our efforts right now. Of course, we are not trying, we know our limitations as Nissan. We don't want to be in every element of a customer's life as their whole person. But for the elements where they can get value from interacting with us, we are looking to start interacting with our customers as that whole person. So looking at that trend around like the integration and differentiation that I mentioned, we're looking how can we help our customers who are already engaged with us, not only in the car, but perhaps in service repair, or they're taking out a loan with Nissan Finance, or some other combination of events. Maybe they're starting to use our connected services subscription. How can we start to look, rather than the way that we have in the past, that many automotive companies approach the challenge is looking at a business line by business line or function by function view of that customer. We're looking at our role inside of Nissan to help the entire company and the entire brand connect to treat this person as a whole person and support them by knowing them, caring for them, and where appropriate, personalizing their experience, no matter how they interact with the brand. We want to do this in a way that's going to really add value to them. It can't be an upsell, it can't be a cross sell. It has to be based on the relationship that we have with the customer. How can we make your life more convenient or more exciting as you're driving, as you're using your product, or as you're using Nissan services? So there are a couple of major strategies or categories of investment that we're making to support that goal. We're investing in omni-channel integration and personalization to know and support our customers across that journey as the whole person. We're investing in our e-commerce transaction capabilities to make it easier for them to transact and interact. We're developing new digital and data-driven services, and we're starting to look at these reasons to stick around. What can we deliver in our customer experience that's going to be providing joy, providing convenience, providing excitement, and be a reason to stick around and engage with us. Underlying all of this as a global team, we invest in our global digital platform, which is a set of products and software services that are deployed and customized in each of our markets. And back to the way that you framed it, Isa, we see AI as being a really core part of this platform. To drive the personalization of the customer experience, but also to help us understand our customers better and cater to them better. So that's a bit of the landscape of where we're looking to focus.
Oh, that's a good segue to now, JJ. Then, JJ, now you heard the, I guess, like AI aspects. So I guess like I want to bring to a little bit of a different perspective. So AI can be utilized in many aspects, obviously, in every front. And I want to discuss I guess, like, how can we think the value-added services perspective to improve the lifetime of vehicle, for instance? Like, can you comment on that?
On the lifetime of the vehicle, like the physical thing.
Physical vehicle and the vehicle experience itself, like in combine, yeah.
I would separate those two a little bit in the sense that for the lifetime of the vehicle, like actually how they have the whole change. Like you could be using AI to research new materials or new compounds to add to the materials to avoid, I don't know, decay, corrosion, or that make them more environmentally sustainable, change the process, like going way in the beginning of the chain. But while the car is on the street, like the way it is used, it has a great impact. And while you may not be able to predict exactly, you know what, on Thursday at 3 p.m., your tire will go flat, because that seems ideal, but it's kind of impossible. But you know that, hey, within this time frame, you should be looking at this part of the car. And you know what? Now we can add so many sensors to so many parts of the car that I can tell you when something starts being wrong. And I can tell you, hey, you know what? This type of driving that you're doing is damaging this or that part, or is wearing that out. But also it could be about when, let's say you want to sell your car, let's say that it's on the end of its life cycle, more than kind of selling it used, it's going to be scrapped or something like that. You could have a very good perspective of what parts can go where, what can be reused, what can be repurposed, and kind of how. So you can point that out more into kind of the circular idea of the economy and the materials, and that will help a lot. But that's only on the material part of the car, and trying to avoid, let's say, catastrophic things, catastrophic disassembles of the car, like maintaining it as fit as possible while it's on the road. But the other side, on the experience side, is as Mike and Kerensa was saying, understanding what the person is doing during that time that it lends to the mobility side. Like there are things that have to do with security or safety on the road and things around comfort. But then you start thinking around, well, what if I'm not thinking about this as a car itself, but rather as a pause in the time of the person while they're trying to do something else? Many people have work calls on the commute. Well, maybe it's about improving the way you can actually capture the sound. Many people might have, may want to work during that. Maybe it's around how you let them use their computers or connect their cell phones or do something like that. Maybe it's about how they are actually traveling with family. And so it's about how can they engage in an activity that involves all of them so they have that connection instead of just being like 4 people with tablets looking at their own thing. Because you're thinking about making that space not a necessity of a hurdle for them going somewhere, but an experience itself that they enjoy. And I'm thinking that, I don't know, depending on the parts of the world, a lot of people like to like eat on their cars. Like you go through a drive-through and then they eat there. Or they want to go to see a movie within the car, you know, the movie, how they call it, what you see from your, like,
open cinema or something.
Yeah. And the larger the surface of a country, the more likely that people have this more symbiotic relationship with them because they really need them a lot. And so if you can provide that as a little capsule, little extra home outside of home, or an extra hotel outside the hotel or something like that, then you're providing that belonging, and they will get attached to that because that is the car where they have these experiences, and that also kind of extends the life cycle of the car because it's not just something that you want something more shiny, it's something that is part of your life.
Can I add on that? Is that I just love
definitely.
that.
Yeah, let's make it interactive as possible. Yeah.
Just love that concept of belonging. You know, we are essentially, you know, what makes us human is that need to belong. And if you are in a place where you feel safe and you feel that you belong, then you will want to spend more time there and you will love it and you will treasure it. And one of the things that you were saying there, JJ, when you were just kind of going through some of your applications of how AI can be used across the whole of the value chain within the automotive industry, it made me think of the humble remote control. If you think about the remote control, we all have a remote control, don't we? At least one in our lives. And most people don't use the kind of 83 buttons that are on a remote control. And I just, when you think about the way manufacturing works and the way that we as engineers try to think about it, we often want to pack features in just because we can. But if you actually take a step back and think about Occam's razor and think about, you know, actually simplifying, could there be a way where AI understands the kind of behavioral patterns of different types of customers and understands there are certain customers that quite simply aren't using a whole load of features in different types of cars. So therefore, why are we putting them in the cars? Like, why are we, you know, why are we going to the trouble of all that extra expense to put things in that nobody wants to use? And that could be a way also of just optimizing that experience. And to your point on sensors, JJ, I just wanted to build on that with sensors. There will be ways of better predicting when faults will occur and what needs to be replaced or restored or whatever sooner, because you will know that people who are more likely to have short hop drives are more likely to develop these sorts of faults. And that then leads to, in a more kind of macroeconomic way, that then leads you to make some really, really strategic decisions about where you actually put your money in terms of the production processes, and also how you then run the kind of the customer care program afterwards when somebody actually purchased the car. How do you make sure that they get the best out of it and avoid any potential danger zones?
I want to double click on something that you said, Kerensa. So I guess like there's a lot of potential, and like oftentimes we go into this feature creep mode where we just literally put a lot of things which have less usage. I believe it was BMW that they started with these subscription services for different parts of the car and the features that you would like to do. But clearly there is a need by a customer, which is like demanded, that they want to like manage their cost and economy with the features that they are actually using it, right? And some of these features like are already packed into the car, and some of them are not. Some of them are related to the connectivity. Some of them are related to the personalization aspect. So I want to get your opinion around like how do you think like the telecom companies can actually have better partnership or better integration to provide and bring these things into light for the automotive and for the different cars, and like sometimes maybe it's trucks. Like it's not, we're always focusing on consumer brands, but like there's also like business needs as well. So where do you see like I guess like there could be better I guess, collaboration that can happen between these industries.
Yeah, is that for me? Is that for me, Issa?
Yeah, that's for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it's a really good point. If you think about the way that we're leveraging the use of the environment, and how that can then influence supply chains and the choices that we make from an ESG perspective. What we're already doing, of course, I think it was Mike that was mentioning telematics earlier. If you think about the sorts of insights that you can drive, but you've also got the connected cars, and you've got the ecosystems, and you've got the Internet of Things. If you think about how you can use your car to better connect to the rest of your life, or the rest of the things in your life, then you can be leveraging the 5G networks, for example. At BT, and just to talk about an example I know about quite a lot, is we have as part of the BT Group family, we have EE, which is mobile network. So we have 24 million devices currently in the UK attached to EE, and we are able to know where those EE devices are at any one time. And that gives you a huge amount of rich insight in terms of mobility. And if you marry that up with the cars and where people actually are and what they're doing, that can drive you insights on, you can understand the impacts of the economy, you can understand the impacts of different environmental issues, and you can drive those sorts of insights, which are incredibly important to then make better decisions in the future. Now, that the company that within BT that operates that is called Active Intelligence. It kind of drives this kind of mobility data service, and it's already collaborating with Network Rail, for example. But as far as I know, it's not collaborating with any of the car manufacturers. But imagine the kind of insights that you could unlock if you had access to 24 million devices and all the different things that they do, the sorts of journeys they take, where they go, what they do, when congestion happens, when people go elsewhere. And the other thought I had about this, which I don't think enough people are perhaps thinking in this, I guess back to that word, holistic way, but all telecoms companies know when you've travelled overseas. So, when you arrive overseas, you get a little ping because that's your network provider locally. What are we doing with that? How are we collectively using that data? If somebody is an Audi driver or a Nissan driver or a BMW driver, what do they need to have happen when they reach the other end and they're traveling overseas, whether it's for a family trip or whether it's for a business trip? What could we be doing to be thinking, well, we've already got this insight. What do we do with that? Like, how could we create those kind of industry-led, data-driven collaborations which could lead to a better customer experience for everybody, and also it sort of helps power the economy when people are happy and they're sort of spending more money. It's good for our investors, it's good for our customers, and it's good for our colleagues. And that's back to that holistic world. So there's lots of opportunity with the Internet of Things, and drones as well is another. Think about the kind of the network of and the infrastructure powering drones. We at BT are doing a lot with that, and I'm sure some of the other telecoms companies are as well. And thinking about how that could help, like what kind of insights could you gather from the skies that could help in terms of keeping highways safer, and or monitoring which kinds of clusters of activity are happening. That will give insights to different car manufacturers, which could then again lead you to make better decisions about is it good for your company's P&L to be selling in this part of the world or not in that part of the world? And there are other insights you could drive beyond simply the bank balance right now, because you can have all of the historical data, and that can then feed into predictive data.
No, this is really good. When you were telling, I remember a futurist from a few years ago. He was talking about imagine a car being in an accident where we know exactly where the location is, and then we're sending a drone to take pictures and then send that to the insurance company. And it just gives me impression that the world is becoming such a connected way. The connected experiences will play a significant role in the future. So I guess Mike, what do you think about it? I guess given connected experience perspectives, how do you think it's playing a role in automotive industry?
I think it's playing a very significant role. I think it's playing a role because our customers are demanding it and their expectations are changing. as they are getting experience and value from connectivity in other sectors. You know, your smart device in your home that connects to your calendar, to your appliances, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's a growing appetite for more connectivity as long as the customer is in control of that connectivity and the data sharing, and it's adding value. So I think it gives us an opportunity, but also a very careful line to toe. But taking it from this brief of looking at the whole customer, how to create value for them across that whole life cycle of interaction with the brand. And JJ, as you were calling out earlier in the webinar, you know, looking at the intersection of automotive with categories you don't normally associate automotive with, like kind of fitness and wellness, or kind of like food tourism. These are sort of the areas that, if we look at connectivity as not only connectivity within the Nissan ecosystem and the Nissan brand, but a more extended network of partners that are related to our customers' mobility and our customers' commutes and our customers' travel, it really does open up I think, a really rich canvas to support our customers and create value from them. And the way that we think of it is where to start and where is going to add the most value. Because if it's an infinite canvas, infinite connections, you're kind of losing your way, and you're losing your identity a little bit, and you just can't do it all. So we're really focusing on those connections that are going to drive convenience and excitement for our customers, because excitement is really the core of the Nissan brand. That's our history and what we've been all about.
Yeah, this is very good. I guess, like, again, I'm just thinking like our collaboration over the last few years together, and I know like how much passion that you guys have. So JJ, I'm gonna ask you something like on a very similar line in this connected experiences. So like, if I ask you to think from a perspective of impact of other industries coming into the automotive, like things like hospitality, education, that stuff around like fitness, for instance, like that. Like Mike really put it really well there. So like, it's typically that you don't correlate those things like immediately, right? Like, so maybe real estate, maybe I don't know, like you're going home and then you wanna send flowers to your mom, etc. So there's a bunch of different kind of like experiences that you can drive. So how do you see AI impacting these things, like these collaboration in the different industries?
It's going to be big. That's the understatement. Because I'm thinking in terms of, first of all, enablement of a lot of those experiences. Like on one side, this idea of like Kerensa was saying, like belonging, and like the car is the piece of home that you take with you. And if you can do anything there that connects to your family or learning experiences, something like that, you need a lot of, let's say, gadgets or connections or data services to be able to provide that. And to do so in a manner that is differential than just having your phone with you, because some things will be there, or you might have access anyway, but the setting must be right. I mean, yes, you need to be able to relax, to focus, to feel safe, to concentrate on that, to share with other people, and that is the thing, that is the place where that converges. And so it might be that if you're renting a car, it's your hotel on wheels, and that is part of the hospitality experience. And so, as Mike was saying, it's around networks of partners, because that's how you provide the services. Maybe the underlying system might be from one particular car manufacturer that has these deals with hotel chains. Maybe it's with airports, maybe it's with countries, maybe it's with different things, maybe it's with kind of governments, or how you plan new roads. So that's how they come in. Now, particularly the ones you mentioned, education is going to be huge, I believe, because that's a perfect setting when you're kind of in a bubble from the rest of the world, and you can stop
isolated,
trying to, let's say, kill the time while you get somewhere, to actually use that time and maybe plan your journey so that it lasts just enough for your lesson. You can do a little extra stop somewhere with a nice scenery or something like that. And that turns that into a hospitality thing where, you know what, if I have the connectivity and I know that on my way home, I will be passing through this restaurant that I like. I might have the notification that tells them when I'm 10 minutes away, so that I just arrive there, they give me my food, and I'm having that dinner while I'm doing something else, listening to a podcast or something like that. And that connects that's the melting point between hospitality and education. Now, there might be other things like the fitness idea of kind of your spending fitness points by doing kilometers in your car, and now you have to go and walk them. Like that type of gamification aspect where you start incorporating habits that kind of pay off the non-exercise, non-activity that you might do there. But once you start combining them, then the other ones open up, because if it's going to be your little personal hotel and restaurant and classroom and everything else, it's going to be kind of your social hub, your mobile social hub. So you may even kind of meet with friends while you're going somewhere to share that activity, and it's your mobile office as well, and that's how they get in there. That's any experience that requires a place will be able to start incorporating elements of that within the card, and that's going to be the key.
I think I have a belief that in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see some amazing experiences that we never ever have thought that would have been done in cars and during transportation, really. So that being said, I guess I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to open up with the questions. So we have first question. This is towards Mike. You made 3 trends, so in particular the integration piece, adding value to our consumers through the provisions of additional services will most likely require collaboration with partners. Do you agree that these services are likely to be more relevant if they are market specific? And if so, these can quickly multiple out a rather complex environment. Apart from a technical perspective, who within the business can start driving these relationships and collaborations and the partnerships?
Yeah, thank you. First off, I do fully agree with the introduction to that argument that the provisioning these new services, if I heard it correctly, that will require more collaboration with partners. I totally agree with that premise. Whether or not these services are going to be most likely to be relevant if they're market specific because of that collaboration, in my view, it's a bit more nuanced in that, yes, you're going to need market specificity in the implementation of that service if it requires a partnership in many, many cases. But, and I'm saying this from the lens of my role as a global customer experience team within Nissan. We provide global products and services. There is almost always going to be a shared service component that can be scaled and can be relevant across market on the digital platform, but then be adapted for a local partner. So I'll give you an example for today. I was mentioning earlier that we have e-commerce capabilities in over 12 markets. We have a common solution for the customer in that e-commerce checkout flow to select financing, but that financing selection feature is integrated with different finance partners per market. Services that are going to connect with local food and drink, local entertainment. There is going to be a local component for the partners that you're interacting with. But in my point of view, companies still can benefit from looking at what can be the scalable parts, because there may be relatively universal customer needs, but those needs are met with different partners in each market, because those are the companies in those areas that have thrived in that market for language or for another localization purpose. And on the last part of the question, if I understood correctly, it's who within the business should start these partnerships. Every company has to make the decision whether or not basically to grow or upskill an existing part of the organization or to build out a new business unit. The advantage of growing out is automotive companies have a lot of partnership building capability. I mean, the dealer network is an incredibly valuable and incredibly rich and deep partnership. So OEMs have this capability. inside the company there and in other places to build the partnerships. I think it's slightly more advantageous to develop a new capability towards services because the skill set's a bit unique. You can bring people into the automotive industry from outside the automotive industry, which can bring some good inspiration. But ultimately, it's a choice each company has to make.
Yeah, like it also requires some courageous executives to kind of step in, like, and see the potential as well in the market. We have another question. I guess this is to JJ. Is it possible to have cars that talks to the driver, kind of partner sharing your time and, you know, like thoughts while you're driving, etc.? Which I'll make additional comment to this question, JJ, since you are the AI guy. But there is also like these virtual friends, virtual, I guess, relationships that we are talking in the AI space as well. So can you combine those two? Maybe like that would be an interesting answer to hear.
This is going to be a great example of just because you can doesn't mean that you should. In the sense,
Yeah.
Technically, is it possible? Yes, because it's possible kind of on the phone. It's possible on like the LLMs, the modern LLMs and the speech to text, text to speech kind of capabilities are there. So it's possible. Having a consistent thread of conversation, having that be valuable, having that be non-intrusive, those are harder. Designing that persona is going to be harder. And because you're going to need some other measurements, like if you have to tell your car to shut up to let you concentrate because you're parking, that's a big no-no. Like it needs to be designed in a way where it's kind of waiting for your cue, but not too much, and just a hint needs to be enough. So designing the interaction is going to be a huge challenge because it's going to be a new interface. So possibility is there. Now the question is, what for? What is it going to be the objective? Some people are going to like to have some sort of kind of therapist or coach that just goes with them on the journey. Some are going to preferring having more kind of instructions. Some are going to be wanting to have that as a kind of note-taking or something like that. But then something that's going to be really strange for us is that people do get attached to their cars. People get attached to their robot vacuums. Now, if it's something that you've been talking to for the past 5 years, how are you going to dispose of that? That's going to be really tricky. And if some people get offended when people touch their cars, there's going to be like, that's my friend, that's not my car. And we're not equipped to deal with that yet. So kind of the understanding how that interacts with the whole person, as Kerensa was saying, is going to be tricky. And the different personalities are going to be a huge differential.
Yeah, I think it's maybe for next generations. Maybe we are too old for this. I cannot even like foresee how that will play out. So we have one more questions that I'm going to take. This is to you, Kerensa. Phone calls and text messages are one of the main concerns regarding road traffic incidents and driver safety. So what sort of automated controls can be explored to minimize phone usage while driving? So I guess there are two parts to this question. One is in the, like, obviously in the car, but also from the, because you know the position, you know the person is actually driving or traveling. So what kind of controls can be made is the question.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it's partly around how can tech help you, and it's partly about how are you going to be sensible when you're driving a car. And you know, the tech can be fantastic, and it can be you know, it can give you the right kinds of insights. I mean, we've already got fantastic technology in cars that help you park better, that help you optimize your speed, that help you do all sorts of things. But the tech alone isn't going to be enough, because the tech can be switched off, the tech could fail. You know, I was interested in what JJ was just saying about sort of thinking about the automation of it. In autonomous cars, in certain European countries, an autonomous car has the legal status of personhood. And it's just worth thinking about that for a minute. So the autonomous car could be held responsible for causing a collision, let's say. So if you take that to the nth degree. But the point is very well made. And I think it's about, you know, making sure that people are not distracted when they're carrying a mobile device. So we've already got kind of ways of making sure that your phone is kind of safely stored away, but it's to do with that interaction on behavior and whether or not we can integrate a better sense of the voice-enabled LLMs can be incredibly powerful, providing you tame them. You can imagine a world, and it's not so far away, and it's not a million miles away from sort of Knight Rider's kit, where you have the ability that someone, your tech, your car will become your friend in a way, and will know that you were listening to a podcast while you were getting ready for work, and they will know you're in your car and you're dropping children off to school or whatever, and that in the time when the children are in the car, you don't want to be listening necessarily to your podcast. You want to give them time to play or time to talk, but then they'll know when the children have left and then you can resume. Now that's going to be a kind of very intrusive world to some people, and they will hate it. They won't want to be spied on. They will hate that. But there will be some people that really enjoy the convenience of that. So how do you marry up that kind of insight and the tech that's already available? It's already there to help people. Enable kind of voice controlled, whether it's insight on what's the best way to get from A to B, or how do I have a slightly more scenic journey, or whatever you want to do, or how do I go the safest way, or how do I go the way that's going to be greenest, or how do I go the way that's going to cause less wear and tear on my vehicle and less kind of tire degradation, etc. You can do all of that already, but for me, this is a human behavior problem, not a technology problem, because we just have to be sensible and not be holding devices when we're driving. That's silly, that's illegal in many countries, and to make sure that we're not distracted. But there are so many distractions when you're driving. You've got to think about rain, you've got to think about traffic, you've got to think about other drivers' behavior. There's so much to be thinking about. So I'm afraid I probably put this in the bucket of this is down to our own personal accountability, and the tech can help us, but it's not going to save us.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I remember, I guess, like Congress talk that Google CEO was responding to a question, like, how much are you guys tracking us, kind of, and the answer was very interesting. Like from a technological point of view, we are making all the steps to a point where it becomes creepy. So basically, they are doing everything. So technology can allow us to already do these things. But as you suggested, I think like the security, privacy aspects, and the convenience aspect is just a balance that like a person needs to do rather than a car manufacturer or the telecom organization. So we're coming to the close. So I guess before I close, Mike, do you have any closing remarks?
Just to say thank you, Isa, for moderating, and JJ, Kerensa, it was really a pleasure. I think we got into a really interesting area. And if we can take away one thing, it's that it's not about the technology, it's about that whole person. And the technology is really to serve them. AI is really to make their life more convenient, or make it easier for us to make their lives more convenient. So I think that's the takeaway, or one of the major takeaways, and just appreciate being here, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike. Appreciation is for us. JJ, do you have any remarks?
So I think the conclusion that I get from this is that how we're thinking around integrating the cars more into our lives is going to be the key, because otherwise we ourselves are going to be kind of rejecting some aspects of that, and the technology is not going to fulfill the potential that it actually has. So it's up to us, as, let's say, within the network of partners, to think around, well, what does it mean for the human to actually be leveraging this? And so it's going to be a huge challenge ahead.
Yeah, thank you, JJ. Kerensa, do you have any closing remarks?
Yes, just in conclusion, I just echo what Mike and JJ have just said. It's been a real pleasure to be here, and thank you very, very much. So it's been really lovely to be here. I would just say let's do a little bit more ecosystem thinking from the bottom up, and leave you with that thought.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today in this webinar and sharing your thoughts. And I'd like to also thank to everyone who attended this session. We hope you enjoyed listening to our speakers, and we will share the webinar recording with all the registered participants and other exclusive content. So keep an eye on your inbox. And for also more information about Globant's Automotive Studio, please visit our website. And that being said, till next time, enjoy the rest of your day.